You are an infinite patchwork of stars, circling in a little earthly body. They crash into each other sometimes, and it creates a spark, and that is when you smile. And they shoot around your mind sometimes, and it is a meteor shower, and that is when you laugh. And they sometimes just sit there, and it is still, and that is when you are in love. You are a ripple of tides created by tangled letters. The smudged ink has turned art to architecture, and it houses your delicate soul, and it reminds you of when those tides were words and when you loved yourself. You are stitched together with love. Your fingerprints tell a story of that which you've given and received and been made out of. And your eyes are seas that drown any suggestion that the lives before them are not valuable or deserving of love. You are millions of colors, markers, crayons, colored pencils, dried paint, and dried tears, splashed on torn pages and presented on a stage. You are a spirit and a life and a treasure, and you are not your mirror, and you are made of the same bones as everyone else.
We teach girls to shrink themselves, to make themselves smaller. We say to girls, you can have ambition, but not too much. You should aim to be successful, but not too successful, otherwise you will threaten the man. Feminist, a person who believes in the social, political, and economic equality of the sexes.
She is made of iron and gold the world hoped she would never notice. Her veins run deep with a thick red blood the world always told her was blue. Her eyes are a galaxy of light the world tried to blind so she couldn't see the hate with which it handled her. But she is skeleton and muscle and flesh, and one day she woke up and heard the growls of the toothy monster thrust on her back without her consent, and suddenly the bites on her neck and the burns on her cheeks made sense, and she only felt a million times stronger for having survived just as long as the men who lived their lives casting devils instead of wearing them. She felt a million times stronger when she realized that her skin was not made of dirt, but sunlight. And she realized that she was not an object, but a creator. She cried when she realized her beauty was a chain to that unearned label, weak, incapable. But she collected her tears in a jar and put it on her shelf to remind the rest of the world that she had discovered the truth, and in seeing her shackles, she could break them, and that was exactly the power the world was trying to extinguish, the power the world was hoping she would never realize. She is a woman, and she is clothed with strength and dignity. She is living under the weight of a million hands pushing her down, but all it does is extract from her a flaming fight the world never anticipated.
There is a fire in me burning that was lit almost a year ago when they took off my blindfold and your skyline tore through my spirit. I remember racing through the redwoods, my mouth hanging open in astonishment, wondering if my dreams would ever be as big as those trees. I tried to reach my arms around your trunk, even though I knew it was impossible, and it made me feel like a kid. I remember the edge of that mountain. I couldn't tear my eyes from the window because it felt like we were driving for years, and yet the army of tall green trees never thinned, and I couldn't believe that many even existed. I was only vaguely aware of the music ringing through the van, but I do remember understanding what he meant when he said, "Country roads take me home," because I was 2,000 miles from my house, but I never felt more in place. I guess I got a little too used to sleeping under the stars every night, because when our time was up, I laid on the floor of my hotel room and cried at the blank ceiling. But now it's been months since I said goodnight to the star-studded sky, and even though I missed that sunset that turned the world into layered shades of navy, I've gotten used to my light blue walls. Every now and then I see a picture and remember the lush universe waiting for me across the country, and my eyes fill up with the wonder they got used to on those roads, and everything around me becomes as beautiful as your jeweled waters, and your roaring peaks, and your breathless cliffs, and myself when I was with you.
We don't want no devils in the house. Yes, Lord. asked me why it was so hard for me to write a poem about you, and I think the answer is that you are already a poem, and there is no way to make your curved edges and your soft lines sound more beautiful than they already are. So I decided to just tell you how you make me feel with a few stanza breaks and uncapitalized letters and a bit of improper grammar. When I look up and see you smile, it makes me want to be a better person. Just being next to you makes me feel better because you take me out of my clouded head and you make me forget my emotions for 1 second. And when they start to seep back in again, even though I'm with you, it always paints my face, and you notice, and you ask what's wrong. And I say nothing, but it's entirely true because the pain dissipated the second you opened your mouth. You want me to be around all the time, and that makes it a little easier for me to tolerate being around myself. I try not to bring it up because I know it will upset you, but every day I worry about how little time we have left because I don't think I'll ever find someone who calms me down like you do. I don't think I'll ever find someone else who makes me feel okay just by being in the same room as me. I worry I won't find someone who loves me as unconditionally as you, or someone who withholds judgment like you do. But I try to forget that and just drink in every precious second that I have with you right now. I just want you to love yourself as much as you love me because it is such a beautiful feeling, and you are the most deserving person I know. And I just want you to know how thankful I am that you taught me what kind of love I ought to be demanding from the rest of the world. And I just want you to know that with your hand in mine and the hours we've clocked together, I am always with you, and we are always growing.
There's nothing hidden in your head the Sorting Hat can't see. So try me on and I will tell you where you ought to be. You might belong in Gryffindor, where dwell the brave at heart. Their daring nerve and chivalry set Gryffindors apart. You might belong in Hufflepuff, where they are just and loyal. Those patient Hufflepuffs are true and unafraid of toil. Or yet in wise old Ravenclaw, if you've a ready mind, where those of wit and learning will always find their kind. Or perhaps in Slytherin, you make your real friends. Those cunning folk use any means to achieve their ends. So put me on, don't be afraid, and don't get in a flap. You're in safe hands, though I have none, for I'm a thinking cat.
A lot of things change when you're 18, and a lot of things make sense. And for the first time, you realize what makes this life so unique. It's that one person whose love you didn't think you deserved, and the one whose love you never thought you'd lose. It's ignoring your parents until you have nothing, and realizing they're the only ones always by your side. It's doing things you don't always understand, and making mistakes you know you're going to regret. It's looking outside and realizing the sky isn't always shining or storming, but sometimes it's just gray. It's wishing you could go back in time and listen to advice from an innocent version of yourself, because now you have experiences to understand why it's so important. It's wishing you could tell yourself everything you know now, but you're not even sure if you would trust yourself. 18 is having words to say and no one you want to tell them to, so you write them down in a journal and you wish that you could read it 4 years ago. You're gonna need to love yourself, you say, but be prepared to fail, because it's often impossible in this burning world. Write down everything that makes you smile, so when you feel like just a body, you can read it and remember why you're here. Find people to trust, but protect your heart. And when you get a tickle in your stomach, listen to it. Don't make that mistake you know you're going to regret, but forgive yourself if you do. Dear God, forgive yourself. Live with self-compassion, because how can you extend to others what you don't even have for yourself? Don't talk bad about other people, and don't talk bad about you. When the whole world is looking in the mirror and pointing out its flaws, and it looks at you in that moment of silence, urging you to join in this suffocating game of self-destruction, stay, quiet. Be nice to your body and be nice to your heart. And say nice words to yourself, even if you don't believe them. Because if you repeat them enough times, your mind will start to realize how true it's always been. Treat yourself like you would treat your best friend. But make sure you have a best friend that gives a shit about you, even if sometimes that means your best friend is your mom. Do yoga and read, and pet your animals. And every time something bad creeps in, drown that thought out with screaming repetitions of some mantra you're working on believing. You are valuable. You are going places. It's okay if you don't know where you're going. It's okay if you don't know what you like. It's okay if sometimes you just feel like a bundle of cells. Just close your eyes and try to love yourself. And remind yourself that at least you've made it to 18. And remind yourself that there is something better.
I never wanted to be president. I wanted to be a cowgirl and a fashion designer and a veterinarian, and I wanted to own a bookstore before I realized that no one buys books anymore. Now I want to be an astronaut, but I'm not good at science, so I decided to become a poet and write about the stars instead. When I was growing up, they told me I could be whatever I wanted. I guess they wanted to be liars, because I just wanted to be happy, but for years I've been learning that that's not always in my control. I started waking up and seeing a cloud that would move out of the way of the sun, and I learned that it is called depression, and I guess the only thing that matters is that I am trying to get better even though I don't understand why. So now I tell everyone I want to be a journalist, but not really. I want to move to a Spanish-speaking country, and I want to read a million books, and I want to be thankful when I open my eyes each morning. I'm okay with changing, because maybe tomorrow I'll decide that I want to live on a sailboat for a year, and if that's what I want to do, then I'll do it. Or maybe I'll decide I want to be a math teacher, and if that's what I want to do, then I'll do it. But all that really matters is that I'm going to do what makes me happy, and that might change tomorrow.